Hello and welcome to our review of Veronica Mars. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we are discussing the 8th episode of Season 4, Years, Continents, Bloodshed. And this is, thus far, the final episode of Veronica Mars. As with all other episodes this season, it aired on July 19th, 2019. So, Maddie Ross returns the red car that Dick tried to bribe her with. He parks it in his garage, and Maddie sneaks out of the trunk after he's left, with the intention of breaking into his home to prove that he is the bomber once and for all. She bugs the place and starts to copy his hard drive when he comes home. This is a very Veronica move. In fact, I think she did something identical to this in Season 1.
Yeah, sounds about right. The case of seeing the scene, it's like, this definitely seems very Veronica Mars, but whether or not it actually happened, I'm not too sure.
I feel like she did something very similar to this in Season 1 when she got into the Kane's house to copy his hard drive or something. But I don't remember for sure.
Hmm.
Dick looks for Maddie in the house after he got an alert that there was a break-in. He calls Clyde to come and help, but Clyde says no. Alonzo and Dodie also sneak into the house. Dick finds Alonzo in his pool, swimming casually. He asks who he is and why he's there, when Dodie stabs him with a sword in his back. They behead Dick, intending to bring his head back to Mexico to present it to the head of their cartel. Alonzo and Dodie seem sad to leave California, but they know that they have to. Maddie witnessed the whole murder. She gets confirmation that he is the bomber, and so she is secretly happy about his death, getting the revenge she wanted all along. Veronica and Keith, still convinced that there's a connection between the spring break bombings and the death of a frat guy at spring break years ago, go back to the frat house to interview one of the guys that they interviewed a couple episodes ago. She finds out that 4 frat guys abused a pizza guy who messed up their order by dunking his head repeatedly in the ocean. Then, in the middle of the night, someone, presumably another frat guy, lit one of the boys' tents on fire in fear that he would tell. Or that's what they assume the story is. Veronica is very suspicious that a Cho's pizza guy was involved in this incident. She assumes it was Penn because of the description of the pizza guy was that he resembled a hobbit. Which, I mean, fair. She goes to verify this claim by looking at pizza tickets from the night in question at Cho's. Maddie helps her, and Keith look through the boxes of tickets. Maddie finds a ticket with the name Dawn and tells Veronica, who asks Penn. Penn says he knows a Dawn who worked at Cho's a while back, who is also the guy in the Murder Heads who was always on the monitor, who we, as far as we knew, was working in Washington at the time. Veronica investigates and finds out that Don lives 30 minutes away instead of in Washington like he claims. He is another murderhead who would have known about the nail in Penn's back. Veronica tells Police Chief Langdon, who sends out an APB to arrest Don. Don's place is empty and bomb-making materials are found. They think the suspect is Don. Penn leads Veronica to an abandoned power plant where Cho employees used to go smoke the ganja. There they find Don with a confession letter and after he was presumably shot in the head via suicide. Meanwhile, Keith, who is downstairs, receives a call from Maddie, who said that the ticket with Don's name on it was out of order, so it doesn't make sense. It looks like the ticket was planted. Veronica and Keith immediately suspect Penn again and arrest him. They ask him where the other bomb is, and he claims not to know. Veronica realizes a bunch of people are at the opening of the Kane High School, including Maddie and Wallace. She races over there suspicious that there is a bomb in the area and evacuates everyone with 1 minute to spare before the bomb goes off. And we also get to see the principal and what's his name? The Kane dude.
Yes.
Keith and Veronica drive Penn to the bomb scene, knowing that if he is the bomber, he will reveal the bomb location before getting blown up. Keith risks his life in the bomb area as he sits with Penn, waiting for him to spill where the bomb is. Penn cracks and admits he's the bomber and shows Keith where the bomb is. They both manage to disable it, saving everyone. Penn is then arrested. He tells Veronica that there will be a documentary made about him and that he always has contingency plans. Keith receives the $250,000 reward and good news about his health. He's not actually losing his mind. It was just a bad combination of medications that is an easy fix. Veronica later goes to City Hall to marry Logan. The wedding is small, with only Wallace and Keith present. At home, they start planning their impromptu honeymoon. Logan leaves to get the car, to move the car on the street because of street cleaning. Just as he gets in the car, Veronica remembers a limerick from Penn's bomber letter and realizes he put a backpack in her car, likely with a bomb. Just as she screams Logan, the bomb goes off with Logan in the car. Logan dies, and Veronica is devastated. We skip forward 1 year. During the first week of Neptune's spring break, Veronica passes a sign that says Daniel Maloof for U.S. Senate, indicating that he is running again after all. Spring break in Neptune is officially dead. No college students come to town to party anymore. A lot of businesses close down, particularly a majority of beachfront locations. However, the Sea Sprite Hotel has plans to reopen. Maddie Ross ended up being the one with Tawny Carr's ring she pawned to get the money to remodel the place. Veronica spent the year taking care of her dad after his hip replacement surgery. They took care of each other after the horrific incident with Logan. Veronica started to go see Logan's therapist, who originally she refused to meet. She mentions a crime documentary featuring Penn and the bombing, in which the majority of Americans don't believe Penn did it. Veronica says that she is going out of town for a case and won't be back for a while. She leaves her dad with Maddie, who has started to work at Mars Investigations, Pony, and his new girlfriend. And this all makes perfect sense, and I love it. And can we get a spinoff with Maddie and Keith solving crimes now, please?
Mm-hmm.
Logan's therapist gives Veronica a voicemail that he left before he died, explaining to the therapist why he wanted to marry Veronica. It was because she was the strongest person he ever met, and he respected her so much. The episode ends with Veronica tearing up and driving up the coast out of Neptune. So, what do we think of the ending of season 4?
It was definitely really interesting. And I think I think just the case of storyline as well as who they got together for the characters and whatnot for that, it was a marvelous pick that they chose. Double checking for the name if I got it right. I hit the wrong link, but for Penn, the pizza guy, that he was marvelous within his role. And again, either just the case of how he specifically did it or his discussion of the particular things, just the switch of once the right buttons were kind of pushed and how well he sort of kept himself there, but sort of left little hints throughout the show that was interesting to see, and just how slimy he was when he revealed his real face and was speaking Veronica until the last time before going to prison, and just the case of he has contingencies and just like, ew.
Yeah, I think having Penn be the killer was, or I should say, one of the bombers, was a good choice because Patton Oswalt is really good in this role. Because at first, in the first couple episodes, you're like, oh, he's just kind of this weird guy who's a bit obsessed with true crime, and he's a pizza guy, and like he's not going to be the killer. It's like you're not going to make Patton Oswalt the killer. But at this point, like he does have that moment where like the mask drops, and you're like, oh no, you're just a psycho. And I think it's just a really good performance by Patton Oswalt.
Indeed. And then the case of, ooh, what happened with the start of the episode of Maddie sneaking in, and the tension and the decapitation of, ooh, pretty much was what was expected, but also just the case of, ooh, she did not need to really see that, though she kind of did.
Yes, and it gets rid of Big Dick, and now the cartel, and that satisfied the cartel, so we don't have to worry about them. And then the big thing that happens in this is Veronica and Logan get married, and then like 2 hours later, Logan gets blown up because Veronica can't have a happy ending.
Yeah, the marvelous thing within this particular series, but I think the particular thing of with other season and whatnot, in certain cases, it's understandable with certain things that happened and with how the story goes along. But especially with how this particular series is, I kind of question how that meeting supposedly went. Of, hey, so what's everyone's thought about killing off Veronica's love interest Logan? Are you insane? What were all the particular shippers of that particular couple think? Just, it's not too surprising in a certain case, but also the case of, gosh, there must have been so many pissed people.
The Veronica Mars subreddit went insane about this, and they are still insane about it. There is
Uh,
okay. I have a theory on that. We never got a season 5, and I'm not entirely sure why, because from everything I've seen, this did fairly well for Hulu. So I
oh
don't
yeah,
know.
with hmm,
Yeah, it seemed to do fairly well for Hulu. So I'm wondering if it's not an issue of like, hey, it's really hard to get enough time with Kristen Bell and Rob Thomas to be able to do another season,
hmm,
or what the thing is there. Here,
hmm.
this might sound weird, but I have a theory on the killing Logan thing. My gut says that if we got a season 5, he would have come back, because maybe this is just me being hopeful, but we never actually see the body. And we know that he is like, he works in like special forces, like very kind of like hush hush stuff. So I think there's the possibility that he somehow survived that and then was like, the military kind of like covered up and like pretended that he was dead, but he's actually off somewhere else.
Hmm. That is a supposed thought, but especially with those particular comments, I think that would either start to head a little bit too into the theory crafting sort of thing, or little bit of extension of disbelief, because it would bring a lot of the particular thoughts of, they could go with that, but then they could also go with the even more devastating particular sorts of things of, Logan only has particular thoughts for keeping within his job and not being with Veronica after he supposedly comes back, and or he loses his memory, and the case of either whether or not it was the thought of restarting the supposed thought of the will they won't they again, or just the case of everyone would be like, what the flip are you thinking?
Well, it could also be like that whole. You could also play it as like, oh, like they want to be together, but they can't because Logan has to do these like secret missions that he can't be alive to do because he has to be like, he if he's alive then like, or if people know he's alive then they can suspect that he's, out there still or whatever. Like you could kind of play it that way, but this also might be just because I really liked Prison Break, and that show. There's an unwritten rule that if you don't see a body, assume the person's still alive.
Okay.
Actually, no. Even if you see the body, assume that they could still come back.
That
Because,
seems to be a particular sort of series.
yes, there is a moment in, I think it's season 3 of Prison Break, where we see somebody's decapitated head, but they come back the next season.
Huh, I wonder how they decided to explain that.
Okay, so spoilers for Prison Break. The how what it's something like they found somebody who looked like her and decapitated her and like did some like plastic surgery to this like head and then sent it to Michael and he thought it was real or something. It's a weird show.
Goes. And here I thought it would just been a case of, it probably would have been easier to just uh, craft a supposed head, have it be somewhat believable in the sort of cases from that, but just like, no, actually find a person that looks like that person and decapitate them instead.
You might be right. Maybe they just made it out of a material that was very close to skin. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. I just remember he sees this woman's head in a box and is like, "Oh shit, she's dead." And then the next season she comes back.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was Prison Break. It's a fucking weird show, man. Anyway, So for Veronica Mars, we have none left. It's very sad. I wish we had more, but it at least goes out on a pretty strong ending where, like, everything kind of gets tied up.
I'd say so. The case of, uh, yeah, with most everything that went along within the story, and pretty much everything was kind of tied up with things that there. But definitely not the case of a happy ending. Though, in comparison, from the previous season, it was at least a little bit better.
It's true. Wallace is the new varsity coach at the renamed Neptune High. Keith now has Maddie as his assistant slash apprentice, and Veronica is off doing the PI thing all around. We assume California, potentially the entire country, which could also be a fun season of Veronica on the road, so, like doing PI stuff in other places. But I digress. Alrighty, well that is it for Veronica Mars, Dave. What did you think of the series overall?
I think on whole, especially from how it started to how it sort of ended up with things from the end of the series and then sort of picked things back up heading into this season, it definitely fit with everything and sort of kept the traditional vibe of everything, but still growed along with everything to be the series that it turned out to be.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The show is very good at like keeping the core of itself throughout all the seasons, but also changing. Like that the core relationship, especially between like Veronica and Keith, is always very central to the show, and they have great chemistry together, and they have a bunch of really good like quips back and forth. But the show isn't like it's not static. It does change, and like yeah, I think it's a fun series, man.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, well, if there's nothing else, that is Veronica Mars, and I've been Paul.
I've been Dave.